Hello, everyone. This is Inconsequential Questions. I'm Hunter Cook, and these are my co-hosts, Yoshi and Caden. This podcast is basically just us talking about different hypothetical questions and asking the question of what would happen to the world if this blank and blank happened. So, how you guys doing today?
I'm good. I'm still sick, but we're living.
I'm doing all right.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Everybody's had people die, people close to them. Everybody's felt bad about it. Since the world has began, living things have died over time. So today's hypothetical question is, what would happen if all of those things that died came back in an instant, all around us?
Wait,
Like,
you said every living thing just now. I thought it
Okay.
was all people.
Uh,
Is this all people or like animals too? Or
we
living things,
can,
that's even plants.
yeah.
yes. So my idea wasn't that it would be like the structure of the earth would remain the same. I was thinking that the earth would compensate for the increase in population.
You didn't answer the
Wait,
question.
Oh, yeah, no, it would be all living. Sorry. So the Earth
Okay,
would like grow in size to compensate for the change.
oh God, that
that would be
that
terrifying.
now you're messing with the entire balance of the solar system.
Oh, we'll just say that everything grows in size to compensate.
Now gravity's a lot more.
Josiah,
But he's not wrong. It's a fact.
yeah, it's
Everything would
true.
be off balanced and changed,
I mean, that would happen regardless, right?
regardless of what.
Well, true. If the world didn't change size, then everything, well, does it like stack on top of everything or does it like phase into
So my
things?
thinking is like, wait, what do you mean it would phase into it?
Like, say a tree grew up and then maybe it was cut down, and then another tree grew up right in the same place. Then when it comes back, are they like fused together into
No.
one?
Okay, so when I say that like the Earth grows in size to compensate, it would be like it's separated into different zones by like century or decade, I guess.
Oh,
So like
well, that's
so like
interesting.
there's enough space for everything to exist at once. And it's all separated by the time period.
So we can forget the solar system imbalances and gravity
Yeah.
right now and
I
pretend that
I
this
think
works.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I half of the hypotheticals that we're going to talk about you can't do with normal
yeah,
physics,
true.
right? So we can just
Right.
kind of ignore the macro uh universal aspect of this and just focus on what's going to happen to the people and animals living on Earth.
Okay. Uh, well, now we have the question of how far apart. So they're all separated. Um,
Yes.
I, uh, I feel like modern technology will overtake the rest of the world in a way.
Yeah, I could
Because
see
now
that.
we have, I mean, now we have like these different kingdoms of different times. And uh, obviously, modern times will be the most powerful. And so they would just kind of take over the rest, I think.
I don't know,
So,
man. Vikings were pretty powerful.
yeah.
They don't have guns.
Okay, but that's the thing though. Is like most of Vietnam didn't have guns and they still killed us with traps and guerrilla warfare tactics. You
They're in the
and
trees.
you would think that we would be very efficient at taking over these places, but guerrilla warfare has always been very good at taking out threats that are way I mean, that's how America came to be during the Revolutionary War. We hid in the trees and shot anybody we saw. They didn't have a counter for that, and they were way more powerful than we were.
That's true. And going into this whole thing about war, there would be so much more war.
Oh
So
yeah.
people would just
Eventually.
would people just continuously die and come back? Or
So
Oh, also, oh yeah, that's a good point. Do they keep coming back after they die, or is it just a one-time thing and then we kind of battle royale?
I think, huh? That is a
I mean,
good question.
we could discuss both.
Yeah. Well, that was like what was
Okay,
I
let's assume
thinking?
for now that it's just a one-time thing. If they die
Yeah.
again, they're dead.
We can discuss a multitude of things around this
Yeah.
particular central subject. Um,
Oh,
just mixing and matching.
well, one thing, so they're all spread out. is there still bodies of water separating them? Because like especially older civilizations might not have the means to travel across these bodies of water.
So I would say that the continents are still connected, or because you have to factor in like the continents have been moving about. Huh. Uh,
Also, what happens to all the technology?
it's
Like, does
still
that
there.
come back with them?
Yeah, yeah. So like it is as it was in 1940s or 1940s New York or wherever. It's still the same. All those people reappear. The buildings that were in 1940s New York reappear, and
Oh,
all their cars and whatever.
honestly,
There would
this is
be
a very
people.
different hypotheticals than I thought we were going to be talking
I
about.
know.
Yeah,
It's very
very
complex.
Like, I thought
unpredictable.
you meant everyone just comes back into the modern world,
Yeah. Well, this is more interesting, isn't it?
which I mean, you'd have 1% of the past population in order to not destroy the entire Earth, but
No, yeah,
Yeah.
for
probably
sure.
even less than that.
Uh, there would be people who would be brought back and still think they were at war with Germany, which is my favorite part about this.
Yeah, Hitler would come back. That's
I mean,
terrifying, actually.
I was thinking about that
Germany's like
actually.
the most, like the biggest modern war, but there were tons of wars before
Well,
that
yeah.
too. So,
And
I mean, there'd
people have
be
died in all of them.
so many.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
yeah, that's a
people like
good question
Hitler.
too. What age do they come back at?
So if you died of old age, you come back younger. But if you just died of like a bullet wound, you're the same age.
Okay.
People like
Interesting.
Hitler, I think, would have to be protected, right? By like some sort of government thing, because obviously anyone from the modern day would try to find Hitler and shoot him, but you can't just do that.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, I mean,
Well,
he
because he would have to be like prosecuted. You can't. Well, he's like a criminal. I guess if you still thought like a war was going on and they kept fighting it, that would be a whole different box of marbles.
I don't think he would change very much from the time he died to when he came back. It would feel like he just went to sleep and woke up, and he's,
Yeah,
you know, still going
And
through
hang
that
on,
whole war.
Hitler committed suicide, right? So,
yeah.
or
He
Yeah.
he
uh,
cyanide
so wouldn't
thing.
he still be in that same mindset of I want to kill myself?
I mean,
They're aware of what's happened. They're aware that they
Oh,
died and were resurrected. It's like a
well,
like
now
a
he has an
blueprint in
entire
brain.
empire to conquer.
That's true. Every Nazi that died has been brought back.
and every
And
Jew.
then, oh, well, now he's like, now I have like a world that's 100 times bigger than it used to be to conquer.
It's true. So I think initially, like everywhere, they would like soldiers would actually. I think people wouldn't initially go back to war if they were aware of the fact that they were just resurrected. I think people would be like shocked and confused and trying to figure out what's going on instead of immediately grabbing guns shooting people. I could be wrong about that. I'm sure there's lots
I
of people
think,
that would do that.
I think, I think, yeah, there would be a certain amount of time where people would just kind of be in shock. But
Yeah.
I think inevitably there's wars,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and
every
pretty
war that has
quickly.
ever ended would go back to fighting.
Yeah, I mean, they'd probably end up quite differently, but yeah, I think wars would happen again. And they wouldn't be all the same people as well. I mean, maybe actually a lot of the like older things, they'd probably realize now there's these powers out there that are so much stronger than us. We would have to join together if we want to have any chance of survival.
So you think like 1940s Germany would start joining forces with like
No,
modern
not
day
those.
countries?
I mean like, well, maybe those, but I mean like, think like ancient Egyptians and Romans and whatnot. Like they would be d- sure, those were great empires at the time, but if you compare those to modern technology, they don't stand a chance. And so I feel like they would like try and join together and whatnot.
The way I see it, places like that, like ancient Egypt and uh, like colonial America, the more interesting problem lies in the fact that modern day people would be trying to go over there as tourists, and those people would be trying to come here and like colonize us. Because from the perspective of a like 1700s farmer who's just came to the new world, now the new world just opened up way more. Like they don't understand that this is a place where people live and have lived for. They are not in the mindset of our society.
True. I don't think our people would go over there as tourists, though. I
People are
feel
pretty
like if this
stupid.
happened, they'd kind of hide.
You think?
Yeah, at modern society, I'm pretty sure people would just hide because, well, especially if you bring back, I don't know, Hitler and whatnot. And
I
yeah.
think.
Oh, and
I think they.
imagine if like Hitler got hold of nukes.
Yeah, that'd be something.
I don't think he would necessarily use them because the Nazis had chemical weapons as well and didn't use them.
Because he didn't have access to nukes back then.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean
think.
that was like the most that they had. They just didn't have nukes.
Yeah, but they had.
He'd most certainly use them to threaten more than he'd actually use them, probably.
Yeah,
He wouldn't just get them and immediately use them. He'd get them and use the power to obtain power.
the like the I guess the equivalent in Nazi Germany would be chemical weapons. Though they had those. Those were things that would like decimate a battlefield, and they didn't use those because they were afraid other people would start using them as well.
Hmm.
Um, which I think we've talked enough about Nazi Germany though, because I don't know. I don't think it would be the most interesting aspect of this hypothetical. Is all I'm saying.
Fair.
You're right. Probably most people would just go about their normal life, doing
I don't think
normal
they'd go
everyday
about
things.
I don't think they go about normal life. I feel like I mean, right now, the US is arguably one of, if not the most powerful force in the world, right? So people feel pretty safe. But suddenly you add in like hundreds of other kingdoms and uh, that are surrounding what we know as the US, and most of them would be hostile.
Yeah,
Now people are like terrified. They would want to, you know, like now everyone's like, we need to protect ourselves. So
but
that's
I
what I
think
think
there
would
would
happen.
be a number of stupid people who would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go on a plane and fly to." I think there would be like
It
response
wouldn't
teams
be planes
actually.
going there.
No, I think there would be like response teams. I think that's what our government would do. They'd be like, "We have to figure out what the hell's going on, so we're gonna send a plane over to prehistoric America and figure out.
It w
We're gonna
it
track
would be
this. We're gonna,
reconnaissance, yes,
yeah,
but I don't think there would be ways for particularly non-military,
that's probably
just
true.
regular citizens to get over there, unless you, like, took a private boat or something.
Well, there's people who have boats, Yoshi.
Right, yeah, I know, but I
There's,
my point is you would have to do that if you wanted to get there.
well,
Uh, there'd be a legal way to get there, I think.
it's also off limits to fly certain places right now, and there are people who do it in private planes because they're stupid.
Yeah, there would probably be, you know oh, especially if it comes back with, like, all the treasures and whatnot. I mean, imagine,
The
like,
eight wonders of the
all
world or
these
whatever.
I mean, yeah. And
well,
like,
imagine these civilizations that were their currency was gold. Um, Suddenly the world has a ton more gold and riches in it, and people are like, "Oh, I want some of that."
All that would do though is devalue the like
Kind
value of
of, but
gold.
now there's a lot more people.
That's true, but there's also like proportional more gold.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, why don't we think about like kind of like the biological side to this, like the more nature side? Like we could bring back all the extinct species and stuff. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. I
dodos
think
would
oh,
be
that's
I
really
forgot about
interesting.
extinct species.
dodos would
Like,
be brought back
like,
just to die again.
or we could protect them since we have better technology now. We would be able to.
Yeah, as long as we're not too consumed with, like,
Well,
war
yeah.
and whatnot.
Or like, what about fucking dinosaurs? Like.
Oh, no. I forgot about those.
That there would definitely be like a pet trade of dinosaurs. I I think the more interesting thing than dinosaurs though would be like the Cambrian period stuff before dinosaurs. Like there would be people on boats going to Cambrian period waters where there was very little oxygen and seeing like the weirdest animals ever at the bottom of the ocean.
It's like you can it's like time travel is a thing now, but all Like it's just
Simultaneously.
physical travel
Yeah.
instead of time
Yeah.
travel.
And also the different times are not going to stay put,
Right. Things will uh,
coalesce.
assimilate.
Um, yeah. Well, you also have to think like every single fly and ant and bee that has ever
Oh
existed
God.
is
Oh
going to
no.
come back at the same time.
Oh no.
And they have much like quicker generations than say like a human does. So there would be for every like if we're doing the separating the generations out like a human way, for every like sector or whatever, like 1940s like world and 1930s world, there would be freaking trillions of ants, trillions of bees, and
It's
trillions of flies.
I this is weird now because uh, like up until modern times, people didn't really worry too much about the environment, especially the global environment. Um, and I think it would probably still be the same. Um, I don't think people would really worry, like aside from like modern people, like the modern U.S., they would care about like, well, now they just all these insects and whatnot. They probably carry around a ton of diseases, and maybe they would try to fix it, but I don't know if they could. I feel like we'd run out of resources really quick
Yeah.
if we tried to do that and war and everything.
Well, we're kind of on the verge of running out of resources right now, and this would be like an instead of international aid, it would be like interglobal aid.
Okay, but like, how would it work if it's like an animal died and was eaten? Like,
They come back restored.
okay.
I mean,
I don't know.
people
That just
died and
sounds
were
weird.
eaten.
Oh yeah, that's true. Like
Oh yeah,
serial
cannibals
killers.
come
Like
back.
yeah, like
There are
Jeffrey
entire
Dahmer
cannibal
and Ted
tribes.
Bundy.
I hate to
Yeah.
break it to you, Yoshi, but there are entire cannibal tribes right now.
Yeah, but like not as pro- proliferous as they used to be.
Prolific.
Prolific? Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think cannibalism was as big a deal, though, as you seem to be making it out to be.
I mean, I don't think they're gonna take over the world or anything.
Oh yeah, but it's still a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that uh, there would be the fact that there would be like more hominids would be interesting. Like there'd be Neanderthals, and there would be Homo habilis, and all of these different kinds. And I don't know. They were just as intelligent as we are. So I don't know how they would fare encountering modern society.
I don't know how anyone would fare encountering modern society. I mean, think about like let's even just go back to um well, how does like someone who's only ever used like a sword and maybe a bow and arrow comprehend even a gun, much less something like a nuke?
I think we don't tell those people about the news. I think that would
Fair
be a good
enough.
idea. I think we don't tell King Henry VIII.
How do they comprehend things like phones and computers?
How would King Henry VIII respond to the fact that like his daughter went crazy and killed a bunch of people?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Now they know their future.
Yeah, well now they know who killed them. So like everybody who's ever been murdered by someone,
Oh God.
do we prosecute people for crimes that they had committed before they died?
I would say yes
Oh,
because they're in that same mindset.
But like
Yeah.
if you died in prison and you come back and you're not in a prison cell for whatever reason, like do
definitely
they
catch
process
them.
yeah, do you finish up this how do you even keep track of such a thing logistically though?
It doesn't work very well. We
That's a
use
good
the
answer.
dinosaur land as purgatory.
Yeah. Purgatory. No, like Australia. We just send them, it's a penal colony now.
Yeah,
Oh man. I would
like
watch a show
everyone,
about penal
because I
colonies.
mean, obviously, we can't fit everyone in the prisons because they're not made to take, everyone who's ever existed. So I mean, sounds like sending them to the dinosaurs is a fine solution.
Not very humane though. Uh
Oh no, not at all.
according
I don't feel like that hardly matters at this point, though.
according to the internet, there were 100 billion people to have ever existed, not counting the 7 billion that are alive today.
I feel like it
Oh,
should be a
that's
lot
not as much as
more.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think though that we didn't have the resources to keep alive a population that we have right now until very, very recently. I mean, there were 5 billion
Yeah,
people in the 1980s.
true, true.
Um,
Well, that's not as overwhelming as I thought it would be. That would actually, I wonder if that would be possible to have that many people on the Earth.
a normal Earth.
Yeah,
You have to keep in mind that the Earth isn't nearly as overpopulated as the TV likes to say it is. You could fit every
right.
human alive right now inside the Grand Canyon, and they would be fine. Like they wouldn't have to stack on top of each other.
Well then, okay, we could fit all these people on regular Earth.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into this other kind of side shoot. Let's forget all the plants and animals. Let's say they don't come back. Let's just
Okay.
say
Just
humans.
people. Just people and
And
normal sized Earth.
yeah, normal sized Earth. Uh, do they come back where they died? I guess.
Unless there's someone already standing there.
Okay, close to where they died.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're like,
Hmm.
so let's say from their perspective, you just got shot. You go to black, and then like it's like waking up from a dream, and you're just standing in the street.
Okay. Well, India becomes standing room only. Um, China probably too.
Africa as well. Just the whole
Yeah.
continent.
Actually, probably ever except the Americas.
I don't know. There were quite
Well, Europe probably. I mean, that's very
there were
densely populated,
there would be a lot of
and it
plague
has been
victims.
for a long time.
There
I
were
say
quite a
not the
few Native
Americas.
Americans.
Well, yeah, not compared to how many people there are now.
That's true.
Um, yeah, I say that because the Americas were more recently discovered.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't mean they didn't have people that existed.
Right, but the Indians, Native Americans were like, they were tribes of probably maybe a few hundred at the most.
Not all of them. The Mayans, and there were a lot of them that were nomadic and only had small family units and a few,
Right.
but there were a lot of tribes also that lived by lakes who had hundreds of members, and some had like mega tribes where they were allies with other tribes that had thousands within them. So
Yeah.
all those people are back.
Still wouldn't be nearly as populated as Europe and China, I think.
Well, yeah, China. I don't know. You're kind of assuming that just based off the fact that they're really populous now, though.
Yeah, but okay, think about China. Like they we don't even know when their history started.
True.
There's always been people in China. I mean, for as far back as we have history.
Yeah.
Uh, and Europe has always been fairly densely populated. Lots of wars. Oh, that's another thing. There's battlefields. Suddenly everyone comes back.
There was a downed plane full of Germans who just appeared in London right now, and they're really confused.
I think
Yeah,
battlefields, everyone would appear again, and then they just go right back to fighting.
yeah. Well, just imagine being like a beachgoer on the battlefield where D-Day happened, and you just see people coming out of the water.
Oh no, that's that's not good.
All the people on the Mayflower who died of like before they got there are just in the ocean now.
Oh no, I forgot about that.
What about like people who drowned? Would they be in the ocean?
Yes, you're in the ocean now. Have
So you're
fun.
I
just
guess you,
drowning again.
yeah, I guess you better learn how to swim. I mean,
Well,
Sorry.
this is kind of what I expected is a bunch of people would spawn back and then like half the population of the world dies again.
Pretty much immediately.
was
Yeah.
it like 10 people a year
Within
drown in Ireland, and because their water's so cold they go out there and they just like get system shock and sink like a stone.
oh no.
Now the waters around Ireland are just full of people who are gonna drown again.
Yeah, that'd be kind of like sad. I don't know. What if you, well, yeah, drowning's not a fun way to die. So like you drown once and then come back and you drown again.
Yeah, you respawn inside of the current Titanic.
Oh no.
It's fun getting out of there. I, I don't know. It would be interesting to be in a prison, and now all the cells are kind of crowded because all the people you've executed are back.
Oh.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
the whatever room they execute people in would just suddenly be very crowded.
Well
Oh
yeah.
yeah, the hall outside of that room would be very crowded.
Yeah.
There would be martial law.
I feel like there wouldn't be
Uh,
very much law at all.
yeah, I
Well,
don't think
that's
so
what
either.
martial law means.
I think there'd be enough people that you don't have, because I mean, only like modern policing and military uh groups would really follow the rules. Well, that's not true. I think I think there's probably pretty much a time where if you go far enough back, people are like, well, I'm supposed to serve my country. Now it's so much in the future, but I'm still supposed to serve my country. So
That's always been a thing.
maybe. I'm not really sure how that would work.
Well, they would listen to different people is the problem.
Yeah, also their leaders come back, so they might listen to their leaders, and their leaders might
Yeah,
listen to modern leaders.
you're not going to be able to like police a bunch of Macedonians when Alexander the Great is like right there.
Can we re-elect
And
George Washington or something?
I would. I certainly would. We'd make a we'd make a council of presidents.
Justice for John F. Kennedy.
Just take all of the presidents who have ever been and put them all in office and see what happens.
Just make them all Congress.
I want to elect the Australian prime minister who walked into the sea and never came back.
What?
There was an
Only you
Australian
would know
prime
something
minister.
like that.
There was an
Yeah,
Australian prime minister that just walked into the sea and never came back. Never turned back around. He just walked, didn't swim.
how strange.
Yeah, but he would be back. Maybe in the ocean, but he can just
Yeah,
walk
he'd
back
be
to
in the
shore.
ocean.
Yeah, it depends on if he's still wanting to walk or if he decides to swim back.
Abraham Lincoln died in bed.
No, he didn't.
He
Yeah, he
did.
did.
I thought he was shot in the. Oh yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah, he was shot, but then like they took him across the street to the bed thing and he died.
Yeah.
Lots of people get shot in the head. The White Death was shot in the head and woke up and was mad he couldn't go back to war. Um, but yeah, I think Abraham Lincoln would come back and George Washington. All these people would come back, and now you have a bunch of really famous historical figures. And I'm not going to listen to the current U.S. president. I'm going to listen to George Washington. By God,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like a some sort of group be made of these old historical figures, and they would at least help advise on issues today because I feel like people would trust them more than
So, do you think
modern.
we would turn more into like an oligarchy than a democracy? Just have groups of leaders?
that's interesting.
Um, hmm.
I think George Washington would be more like, "Oh my God, you went to the moon? The moon? The one in the sky?"
True.
More,
Oh
more
yeah,
than
what
Yeah.
happens
anything
to
else.
science now? Because now there's all these people who don't know modern science at all, and would
Or
they believe it?
medicine, or
Yeah, or medicine.
I mean, imagine if they came back during COVID time. Like, I don't know, it'd just be mad chaos. Like, it was already chaos.
I mean, that's a good way to eliminate part of the population.
It wouldn't be a problem because they'd wake
Oh,
up and the streets would be empty, and they'd be like, "Ah, there's no one around."
would anyone come back with diseases? Like, what if you
No,
had a disease and you got shot? Do you come back fully in good health, or do you come back with a disease before you got shot?
you're fully restored because you can't come back with something that like can just kill you again immediately, unless you're like it's a situation rather like waking up in the Titanic.
Well, okay, let's take COVID. Obviously, it doesn't kill everyone, but say you had COVID, you were gonna get over it, then you got shot. Now you come back. It's not gonna kill you, so why get rid of it? But now you pass it on to everyone else, and some people die. So do you come back
I
with COVID or not?
I think that in order to like for this to work, we have to assume that the restorative process is like restoring them to prime condition, so like no wounds and healthy and not sick, I guess.
Okay.
But that wouldn't
Well,
matter
now the
much.
question is, does it repair such things as like people who were like crippled at birth?
I don't know, but that wouldn't matter much though, because you like 1920s person would walk out and catch COVID from someone who didn't get restored, who was just already alive, and then would die anyway.
True. Or maybe they have some sort of resistance to it.
I don't think that's how novel viruses work.
Well, hang on. It could be because, older they didn't have as good of sanitary needs, and thus their um
Immune
uh
systems are stronger.
immune system,
Yeah.
yeah, it was much more reinforced. And so
Yeah,
perhaps
well,
they would be able to resist some of our modern problems.
not every society would be like that. Like a lot of societies were
No,
nomadic, like the Native Americans, and they would just be wiped out all over. They would catch smallpox
true,
again.
Do you
true.
imagine if the Black Plague came back?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. And that's why I was asking about the diseases and whatnot. That was kind of
Yeah.
the one I was thinking of.
If you came back with plague and just spread it to everyone else, and then we were all dying again.
I mean, with the population, then it would certainly spread quickly.
It had a 50% case fatality rate, if I remember correctly, and it was
Okay.
extremely contagious. So it would spread very quickly throughout the land. And the reason why it was so contagious is because you start like puking up your own guts and like leaking blood everywhere. So that would then spreads viral particles very quickly, and so everyone's outside just vomiting blood, and 50% of these people are just gonna die
That would suck for like the modern people.
who have
Well,
If
never
all
heard
these
of a
people
black
just
plague.
well, no, that's not what I meant. But like if it came back,
Yeah.
like say like the
oh,
diseases did transfer over and brought back.
I wonder, because I mean, that happened obviously a long time ago. So medicine wasn't as advanced. I wonder if we would be able to um, develop some sort of medicine to combat that, or
Yeah,
at
but it would
least
take
lower the
time.
death rate. Okay, but what if there was some sort of commercially available medicine already, like that's already available, that we found out just like mostly fixes Black Plague,
Mostly fixes.
or at least lowers the rate that people die.
Yeah.
Another thing that was interesting about the Black Plague is that it caused like a cultural shift in Europe to where people started obsessing kind of over death a little bit because they were like, "Oh, everyone that I know and love just died horribly, so I'm kind of desensitized now." And a lot of the culture around the time were paintings of like death and stories about death, and people had like death parades and whatnot. And I think the same kind of thing would happen in this situation, like ironically enough, because like everyone you know and love has been brought back from the dead.
Yeah, there would be a sort of desensitization. English. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, similar like fascination with death, just because like
Well, I
it's
don't know
been
about fascination, but I mean, there'd be so many people brought back, and then so many people to die so quickly that everyone would just be like, "Death is just normal,"
death
and
is
it just
well,
happens.
death is just normal.
I
I don't know. It would definitely put a lot of pressure on our systems that we have right now.
feel like if this happened, then within a few years, we'd probably be back down to like 20,000 at the or 20 billion at the most.
20,000.
Okay? Yeah, oh man,
I
that is a
hope not.
huge jump.
Yeah.
I don't know. Uh,
Because I mean, the world can't feed 100 billion people.
You can barely feed the people we have now.
Here's something interesting. Do fetuses get brought back too?
Like from abortions and stuff.
No, I've like infant mortality rate until very, very recently was extremely high. Most babies died almost immediately,
Hmm.
with just stillbirths and whatnot. So, like, if you get brought back as a woman, And now, how many fetuses get brought back if they get brought back at all? What about babies that died instantly? Now there's just a bunch of babies lying on the ground.
Yeah, do they die again?
Yeah, there have been a lot of dead babies throughout history.
Actually, honestly, I feel like this would invoke some sort of apocalypse because think about how many dead and decaying bodies that would be. Like literally, you couldn't go anywhere without smelling decay, except for like the poles.
The military's just gonna have to shovel their corpses into the ocean.
Yeah,
Awful.
everyone's gonna have to.
It makes good fish food.
I mean,
No.
death and decay is a pollutant, so like now you're polluting all of our water sources.
The ocean is not a water source.
The rivers are too. It doesn't matter. There'd
We're
be
gonna
dead
shove
and
them into the
decaying
river.
people. I mean, what are you gonna do? People are gonna die in the river anyways. It doesn't
I
matter. I mean, right now, say someone, I don't know, somehow dies, but if they get into our water stream, then like the whole water stream is not that good.
Yeah, everyone who's ever drowned in a river is gonna come back, and then they're gonna be swept by the current and die anyway.
Yeah. Oh, although not necessarily because like rivers move all the time, so
That's true.
they might just be on dry land.
They wake up on dry land and they're like, "Oh, thank God, I'm never going river diving again."
Oh, what about people who died in caves? Like, there's a guy who like got stuck in a cave and they tried to get him out and then he eventually died and then they filled in the cave with like cement. Now he's gonna
Oh,
come back, be stuck there again, and like be there for an hour and then die again.
What happens if you're buried alive and die that way?
Yeah, that's a
Wake
good
up in a
question because
coffin?
we said
yeah.
when you come back, you're gonna spawn somewhere where you're not like fused into a piece of metal. Um,
Or a
so
person?
perhaps, yeah, or a person. So perhaps if you were buried alive, you'd just be on the
On
ground,
top of.
on
Yeah.
top of it. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like your coffin has been. Well, I mean, if I mean like buried alive, like you're in a coffin underground and you asphyxiate.
Your coffin has decayed and well, maybe, depending on how long ago it was.
Modern day coffins are like covered by cement, aren't they?
Yeah, there's like a cement box that they go in.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure. Though I don't think people get buried alive much these days because we have embalmment.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I don't
It
know.
used to be a thing, though.
They used to put bells on graves, so if you heard it ringing, you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's a person down there." Come on, Charlie, get the shovel.
uh,
I,
oh, what happens to, like, think like way back, say a castle like built on a cliff, but maybe over time the cliff has eroded and fallen over, and now there's like no land there. Um, Now do they just spawn in the water beneath?
that's a very specific question. I don't think that happened much.
No, probably not, but I think it would happen in some places.
How would erosion affect this? Because
Yeah.
there have been like there are cities right now who are covered by land that wasn't there when Pompeii blew up.
Hmm.
You just wake up in mud.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting difficulties with this. That's why it's a
I mean,
theoretical.
yeah. Well, I mean, you could. There were people. I'm trying to remember. There was a big epidemic once of like a molasses flood, and a lot of people died in the molasses. They drowned in it. So just imagine drowning in molasses and waking up, and you're just all fine, and you're like, "What the hell?"
Would it just feel like a really bad dream to them?
I mean, that depends on the person, right?
I mean, yeah.
There's people who can rationalize anything.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, so say somebody died like 2 seconds before all this happened, would they still come back? Like 2 seconds before everybody else came back?
yeah. It's
Oh.
the initial. So, what if they die at the same time? Is a better question. What if you die the moment this
Yeah.
happens?
What if someone is firing an automatic weapon at you when this happens? You just get shot a dozen times, die, come back completely repaired and get shot another dozen times and die.
I don't think
Or
you
you
would
get
keep
lucky.
shooting at that person.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait,
Or you get
what?
lucky and somebody like spawns in front of you and they get shot instead of you.
Oh yeah, that's true. They probably would.
There would be people everywhere. Is the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only like safe way to go about it is to go into the wilderness where no one has ever stepped foot and just live there as a hermit.
Imagine like there's some sort of, I don't know, military like standoff or something. And then these just like ancient armies just spawn there. And suddenly they're in the middle of this uh like medieval times battlefield.
Mongols would be all over it. Like it
Oh
doesn't matter
yeah.
where Mongols spawn; they're going to just keep killing people.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it would be absolutely insane at first, but over time, you're right. It would like stabilize back to equilibrium, where there's just a number of people that the system can support with resources.
Yeah. I don't know that it would exactly equilibrium. Honestly, I think all these people would be there and then there'd be all these like disasters that would happen because there's too many people. And then there might even end up with less people than we initially started with because of all these disasters. I mean, diseases would be rampant. People just fighting would be rampant. Uh, and yeah, there'd probably be just destruction. So yeah, infrastructure kind of falls apart.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a whole mess. I like this idea better than the all times in one world thing, though, honestly.
I find that one more interesting, to be honest.
I mean, my whole problem is the whole like messing with the solar system and whatnot.
Yeah, but again, like you can't just say, "Oh, this doesn't work within the boundaries of physics," because superpowers don't work within the boundaries of physics. But we can still have a
Yeah.
conversation about the logistics of them. We just have to ignore the fact that fire has to come from somewhere, and it can't just be the palm of your hand or whatever.
I mean, a surprise, you could say you have to use fire from somewhere, but that's another conversation. We'll get to that
Yeah.
later. Um,
Regardless, I think that if like we can't just start picking at like, oh, this doesn't work within the boundaries of physics because it would start breaking down. Because you could say that about like literally anything.
I also, I guess part of my issue is if all the technology comes back, then it's not just living things returning, it's just every time period, everything that has ever existed returning.
Everything comes back. The thing that I find interesting about that is that there would be lots of interactions between these times. And instead of it being like modern day where
Sure.
all these things are enclosed within the shell that is our modern world, they have their own worlds that we can interact with. And it becomes much more of an actual like
Well,
interaction than just them appearing because then they're invaders.
I think a more um something that kind of makes more sense to me is if we had some sort of time travel portals that were always open and thus like we have portals to these different time periods and then we can all interact with each other.
Like the TV show Primeval,
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah,
a
I have no
British
idea what that
TV
is.
show. It's a British TV show about a bunch of scientists who there's basically portals opening up in different time periods, and they're studying them and the things that come out of them.
Interesting.
Hmm.
It's not very good.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's very early 2000s British TV.
Interesting.
But I do find that idea interesting of different time periods interacting with each other. I find it much more interesting than a bunch of people from the past invading us. Because honestly, I think we would be quite defenseless against a horde of Mongols, and I think they would come into our time and take what they want. Because as opposed to Mongol society, where everyone who was a male and age 12 and up was a warrior and could kill and fight, in our modern time, most people work desk jobs or whatever, and our
Yeah,
soldiers are nowhere near as physically capable as any one Mongol.
I mean, I kind of agree. I think, yeah, especially if they like spawned in, just I don't know, the middle of the U.S. Or
Yeah,
some sort of civilian population,
I don't
then
think
yeah,
Mongols
there'd
would
be an
spawn in the
issue.
U.S. Don't think
No, they wouldn't, but
Mongolians ever went to North America.
no, no, I'm just saying like, uh, in some sort of civilian population, then yeah, I definitely agree. Like, there'd be a, but still, there'd be some sort of response time, and like they can't do anything against guns. They're just
I
not
mean,
prepared for that. And
they
also,
can.
I don't know that I agree on your physical, like, because I mean, the whole think about like Navy SEALs and whatnot. That whole thing. I don't think true, they were like raised in a system where they have to like fight and whatnot, but I think, uh, yeah, I don't know that they would be that much out and
So
doing, and not all of
Roman
them.
Roman Empire soldiers could carry at age 14 all of their armor, full sprint, about a couple miles through the desert. Every single one of them, without stopping. Because if they stopped, they didn't like you die basically. You don't get if you're too weak to fight, you don't fight. They just leave you. So the thing is, they beat you until you're willing to fight, essentially. So there's a legion of 300 Roman soldiers, and you have like I don't know 10 Navy SEALs, and yeah, they're good with guns, and yeah, they've exercised a lot. But those 300 Roman soldiers are in much better physical condition, much better mental condition, and don't smoke cigarettes and don't do any of those things. And yeah, you have guns and you can just spray them, I guess, but they're not spawning in an area where there's a bunch of soldiers ready to spray them, right? They're spawning in the middle of some like battlefield somewhere. They have time to get reconnaissance. They have time to gather up weapons and figure out how a gun works. And I think if they can get their hands on modern day weaponry, a bunch of Roman soldiers could absolutely wreck shop. I think Rome or Italy, I guess, would completely be taken back over by the ancient Romans.
Perhaps. Um, I mean, yeah, maybe they would have to be willing to change their mindset because if they stick with their old tactics, then they're going to be in trouble.
Kill anyone that disagrees is the
No,
answer to
no,
that
I
problem.
mean, I mean military tactics. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, you can't
they
use
didn't like
shields.
guerrilla warfare, so they'd have to learn guerrilla warfare.
You can't have a bunch of spears and then a bunch of shields, and then when they stop throwing spears at you, you throw your spears because then they're just going to spray you with bullets, and your shields can't
Right,
withstand that.
right, exactly.
But I don't think it's a question of military tactics because they were able to change their tactics on the fly. I mean,
Yeah,
not they're
that's what I'm saying. They
not
would
Romans,
have
but the
to
Macedonians
adjust.
could. Uh, yeah, no, but I think like cavemen or whatever, ancient humans before society was developed, TM, they could, they were much physically capable, much more physically capable than us because they were constantly working out. They were like stamina hunters, basically. They would chase a deer down for 3 miles until the deer died of exhaustion. Like their whole life was basically physical and mental exercise. And there were a lot more of them, I would think, that were like that than we could have than we have Navy SEALs.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Although I think with modern, um, I think modern technology kind of compensates in a way for
So I think
any
that's the
lacking.
difference between the first hypothetical and the second one is that I don't think modern technology could compensate on the second one because it's kind of an ambush, right? We wouldn't know
True.
it was coming, and these people would just
Oh,
overwhelm us because they're ready to fight, and we live in a world that is not always on preparation for war. But in the first
I
hypothetical, you have time to prepare and figure out what's going on because they can't just take a boat and immediately come here within seconds because it would take weeks.
In a way, I agree, but at the same time, our communications are so much more advanced. And, the Roman Empire, like, it'd probably take, weeks before they would know to attack something that's, uh, you know, a certain ways away. And now, if everyone spawns back, then all of their communications are out the window. Like people are just gonna have to work with what they have there. Modern people, I mean, everyone has phones, so people can communicate. And
Yes, but
those ancient civilizations, they won't be able to understand that, at least not without significant like help.
yes, but the Roman soldier that just slit your throat also has a phone now. I know it would
No,
take
but
time
to
for them
him,
to
it's a
figure it out.
rock.
No, I think that you are severely underestimating the intelligence of someone any time period. I think global IQ has been going down steadily over the at least like time that we've been able to record it. I think a Roman soldier would be much smarter than the average person today and would understand that this is not just a rock, this thing with a glowing screen with clear instructions on its surface. They would have no concept of it, but they would be able to figure it out eventually. And also, the thing is war is a mindset, right? And these people who died in war would come back in that war mindset. And it's not like war is chaos. It's not a situation where like, oh, I have to pre-plan with my other soldiers and we have to get together and we have to attack this place at this time. It's I'm going to kill, rape, and pillage everything within sight.
I
I think.
I definitely disagree on the intelligence part, particularly with like the average soldier. Yes, there were. I'm still thinking Romans. Um, yes, there were, people who actually like studied things, but like the average Roman soldier, they didn't go to school. They trained their whole lives to fight and gather and whatnot. They
Oh
they
yeah,
weren't
you're right.
educated like us.
They would be illiterate. Well,
Right.
education does not equal to intelligence.
True, true. It kind of does, but not necessarily. Um, there is other kinds of intelligence, but also they don't speak English.
If we're talking, well,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
wouldn't
that's
spawn
true.
in America. Spawn in Italy.
But it doesn't matter. Dialect has changed.
That's true. Well, you also have to
Also,
understand
text would probably look really weird to them, and they'd take a little while to understand it.
the point being that they would be able to figure. I mean, I think they would be able to figure out technology, especially
I don't.
guns, because a gun is just a
Yeah.
trigger and a barrel.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, think about like Native Americans. They thought it was just like some sort of magic, like fire that just you would do something and kill someone's, and they didn't understand it at all. I mean, they thought maybe they're like being struck by lightning or something, and
Well, that's because they didn't have
they
a
just thought
gun.
it was magic. Right, and that's what I'm saying. The Romans never saw anything like that. Whatever they see they have arrows. You can see an arrow go and kill someone. You can't see a bullet. I mean, it's to them, it's like beyond their understanding to have something go so fast they can't see it and still kill
I don't.
someone.
I don't think it's beyond their understanding. I think it would, but it
Well,
would be beyond what they understood already.
right. Yeah, that is true. I think there would be uh, now, I don't think a just a soldier who's like illiterate and whatnot, I don't think they would ever really understand very well things like phones and the internet and
Probably
whatnot.
not.
Um, but say you took some, uh, I don't know, someone in Rome that was like, they studied or whatnot. I think they'd be able to understand things. Yeah, at least with training and instruction.
I would enjoy talking to the philosophers from like ancient Greece.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think their opinions about anything would change after exposure to modern times. I think they would double down on them.
Oh no. I think it would vary between different people, but yeah.
I think Plato would go out into the streets and be like, "You're all stupid. You can only elect philosophers. You're electing the wrong people. You don't understand." And I think Diogenes would sit in a corner and pee in the street and then get arrested because that's what he was doing anyway.
There's probably so many things they did that we would just arrest them for now.
I would love to see a
Yeah.
philosopher go on trial. That would be the highlight of my life.
Would they even like understand toilets?
That's interesting.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
it's water coming from nowhere and then going to who knows where.
they had. They didn't just like. I mean, some of them did. They like people for a long time haven't just like peed in a well or whatever. They had like buckets they used, and they had holes in the
Uh,
ground, and they had outhouses. They would
I feel like it
understand the
would.
basic principles.
Yeah, I feel like after someone explained it to them, they'd be like, "Oh, I get it," but like they'd be really fascinated with it because it doesn't. It's like something they wouldn't think of, like plumbing
There's
and
Um,
whatnot.
there's
yeah.
something similar happening in India right now, because and a large parts of India they don't use toilets, and they just go in the street, right? And they've been introducing them as part of foreign aid. They're giving them toilets, and because of the like fact that they can't like, it's just not something that has ever existed in their culture. Some people have been like terrified of it. Like they
Yeah,
don't.
and
They're
that's kind
scared
of
to
my
death
point.
of it.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing too, is like, would they just be terrified of these things? Things like guns too. Like, would they just, I mean, think about like the Native Americans. They didn't guns because they thought they were some sort of magic death machine that would just kill people. I have to think that other people would be like that too, and like not want to touch them because they're afraid of them.
Medieval peasants who just witnessed someone shoot someone else with a gun probably would run away really fast. Roman
Definitely.
soldier who just saw someone shoot someone else with a gun, or like a Viking or a Mongol or whatever, they'd probably be like, "Hell yeah, where's mine?"
Maybe at the same time, even they didn't, they had like shamans or whatever, that did like magic and they feared them because, well, they did magic. And I think they would see these as magic. Also, they've never heard something as loud as a gun, probably. So that would have to be terrifying to hear
I mean,
something that loud.
so you're gonna have to specify what time period we're talking, like Roman soldiers, because
Um,
depending
well,
on the time
you
period, they
mentioned
have heard something.
Vikings.
Okay,
You mentioned
Vikings
Vikings.
had,
I was like, they they had magicians and whatnot.
yeah. I don't know if a
They weren't called
Viking's
that,
ever
but
heard. I don't know. I'm not like an expert on the sounds that the Vikings heard in their daily lives, but
well, it's. I guess it's something like okay, you see Vikings. Okay, maybe a rock falling off a cliff into the ocean. Like, yeah, that'd be really loud. But like, obviously, because it's a giant rock falling in the ocean, it's not this stick that someone pulls a trigger and there's just this extremely loud bang. Like, I don't think they. I think that'd really terrify them. It sounds like thunder.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
guess
would.
that would be the thing. They probably heard thunder.
Yeah. Well, they've heard thunder and they worship thunder as a warrior god, so they would
True.
probably be like, "Hell
Oh
yeah, I
yeah.
want to harness thunder."
Or would they? They might, or they might be like, "You are, you've taken the thunder god's power.
You
You
are
need
a
to give
thunder
it back."
god.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah.
They might think they're
Well,
just unworthy of it. They might just
that would be
worship us.
a person by person basis thing, I would think. What would be
Yeah.
really cool though is the
I don't
resurgence
quite
of hippie
agree.
culture.
Wait, repeat that?
I think what would really be cool is the resurgence of hippie culture because of all the hippies that died
Oh,
from heroin overdoses in the 1960s.
well, I'd probably just do the same thing.
they
Yeah.
would wake up, go to Woodstock, die again.
Uh,
Uh,
Do you think there would be like a resurface of like hate crimes and stuff? Because like all the different generations, they all have
hmm,
different ideals on like things like racism or like women or
yeah,
things like
there
that.
there probably would be.
well,
It'd probably be pretty bad, honestly.
the
By
thing
our
about
standards.
that is
Yeah.
that there's a lot more of them than there are of us,
Yeah.
and the general
Yeah.
consensus on those two things that you listed in the past were that the different races, before like the 1900s, I guess, the different races would stay in their own country and leave all the other countries. There's no mixing, right? because that would
Yeah.
be that causes conflict, and women were just like submissive to the man, and they didn't have the right to vote. And I think a lot of people would like immediately go back to that and would be confused as to why we weren't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd probably see like the US as some sort of uh like inferior because we have uh mixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well, they
feel
would
No,
probably
yeah, I
see
feel like
but
they would see the whole world that way.
right, true.
That would probably be the big
Um,
war. Is they would like there would be a war over uh just that those basic principles.
yeah.
yeah, because
No,
in
yeah,
the past, everyone saw their own uh, um, group as superior, basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
That's the thing though. I don't think it would be hate crime specifically because I think black people and Asians and Native Americans and everyone all around the world from then also understood that they didn't want to mix with the other races, right?
True.
So
Yeah.
they would probably go back like or a lot of them would already be in their continent. They would probably try to avoid the other races as much as they could.
Yeah.
That's
I
true.
think I think there would be a problem where, I guess even just in America probably, but especially other places, I feel like all the minorities would be in real big trouble.
No, yeah, I'd definitely, like, die probably because because not only am I a woman who's, like, in school and can read and stuff, but I'm also gay, so
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, you'd probably be in big trouble. I
A
think
woman
everyone
who
would.
can read. It would be interesting.
it would
I
be
don't know.
something.
It
I
would
feel like
definitely be chaos initially.
I think
Well, yeah.
America would still probably be the safest place,
You think?
Yeah.
like
I mean,
overall. I mean, okay,
yeah,
because it's more like recently colonized.
established. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, with the others, I mean, okay, think about you get Vikings showing up. Obviously, they don't care about anyone except Vikings. They're gonna and like Mongols. I mean, yeah, they're just gonna want to kill everyone.
Here's
At
the
least in
thing.
America, people didn't really. Uh, uh, there was less instant wanting to kill. I
Yeah.
guess there was more. Yeah, I feel like it would be a little bit more controlled.
If you're Mongolian, Mongolia would be a great place to be.
Well, yeah,
Well,
obviously,
yeah.
If you're
if you're
like
if you're in the
like
place where, uh,
You're
you're,
from?
yeah, then you should be all right, mostly.
China China would be much better off, I think, with this happening, just because well first of all they're like in a population decline because 60% of their population is elderly, but also they they would have much more order than they have right now
Wait, how do you figure?
because they're like society is very chaotic at the moment. There's a lot of things in disrepair and
I
like
don't.
constantly.
I have a hard time thinking that adding like 12 times the population that is already there makes things less chaotic.
My point is the people in ancient China were much more rigid about rules and control, and they would probably very
True.
quickly establish a hierarchy and take control of the situation, as opposed to lots of other places in the world where we didn't have that same kind of culture back then, and our hierarchies wouldn't be as quickly established. I think ancient Egypt would be fine. I think Greece would be fine. Any place where there was a strong military presence that could establish control quickly.
Yeah, it would, for our modern standards, it would be really bad because they would kind of kick everyone else out
Yeah,
or just kill them. But yeah, they would probably establish control and a government or whatnot very quickly,
yeah,
or hierarchy. Yeah.
yeah. Or maybe not. Maybe they would be just as like confused and angry as we are, and we would just wipe each other out until we have a society of a lot of people left who are from the past and died previously, and a society of a very few people who were still around. Because there's the number difference is what I'm getting at here.
True. There's also, I mean, there is more. Okay, if you compare modern times to all the time in the past, yes. But in the time in the past, there's all these different kingdoms that existed.
Yeah.
So for them, take it from their perspective, it's them versus all other time. And
Yeah.
so there comes up just these like different kingdoms or tribes. So, I mean, even China, there'd probably be like, um, they'd probably establish, well, yeah, kingdoms, I guess. Different people who would follow old leaders. Probably whoever was in rule when they died.
Have you ever looked at the history of China? It like unifies and then breaks apart like 50 times throughout history into like different dynasties.
I haven't studied it, but yeah, that sounds about like how I imagine.
Yeah, there would be a lot of British people who are really confused in Australia and Africa and China and India.
Yeah,
Everywhere there
there's
was
just
once a British
British people
colony,
everywhere.
they would wake up and they'd be like, where's my colony? What happened? Why aren't we still shipping tea to to England? Come on now,
No,
get back to work."
tea. What an important thing.
That's what they conquered like half the world for. They just wanted tea. They wanted tea and spices.
Oh God.
Gatekeeping.
Okay. Well, I think we have pretty thoroughly discussed this topic. I guess we didn't really make an outro, but I guess just follow and subscribe or whatever it's called.
Are those not the same thing?
Um, well, it's yeah. I think on Spotify it's following, on YouTube it's subscribing.
Wait, guys, I have a good outro.
Oh
Okay, go
God.
ahead. This is gonna be bad.
No, it's not. How?
We did not
Okay.
rehearse this.
Next time on Inconsequential Questions. There we go.
No.
Goodbye.